Pretty much want to start off by just speaking on the actors and actresses in the film and how good of a role I think they did. Starting off with, of course, Michael B. Jordan. Honestly, if he just played one of the roles that he played, I think he would still be very, very deserving of having one of the best acting performances of the year so far. So, considering the fact that he played both, and at times it seemed like simultaneously on screen. I mean, what other movie is going to top that performance? I really want to know. The boy who played Preacher Boy, this was his first film, and so that pretty much speaks for itself as well. I mean, considering the fact that this was such a dynamic story. I also want to talk about the different aspects of the love interests, Mary and Annie. Mary being the white passing, octoroon. I think her grandfather was like half black. So Mary was pretty much raised to be traditionally ambiguous in terms of her race, but grew up to marry a white man and lived her life as a white woman, although she was always in love with the black man that her mother raised, which was Stat. And then on the other hand, you have Annie, who was this very full figured, dark skinned, you know, hoodoo practicing black woman who was the wife of Smoke. And, just two completely different types of women, but their roles were very important. I would say equally important in the film. An interesting concept is the fact that a lot of people are going to see Michael B. Jordan and Smoke as like the protector. He has the big muscles. He's a war veteran, a gangster. He knows how to, unalive people at will. But when you really think about it, the protector was really Annie. When they found Stacks on the ground being, eaten alive, I think Annie already had a clue of what was possibly going on, while the rest of everyone else was, terrified. Of course, you're going to be terrified at that. Part of protecting is planning, and she, from the get go, after what happened, she started planning. She started using her abilities in terms of the hoodoo. She started, getting everybody to prepare weapons. The Native Americans in this film played as sort of, vampire hunters. I believe what happened was the Irish man who represented sort of a fallen angel trope. He went into the Native American community and tried to infiltrate the same way he infiltrated the club. What inevitably happened was they chased him out. They chased him right into the arms of the KKK couple. And when they seen that the sun was about to go down and this person was about to become more powerful, yeah, they dipped. The guy said, yeah, that's the sun. Those are the crows. He's in there for sure. And yeah, we don't want to help you. We did what we came to do. We gave you a warning. You didn't take it. It's on you now. The importance of the Asian characters was also very interesting to kind of look at. What I noticed was each character kind of had a different relation to the twins. I noticed that the father, Bo, he was very, very receptive to a lot of things that the twins were doing. He was more than likely the most comfortable with them. As the mother, she was okay to a certain extent with what they were doing, but she did want it to be kind of pushed further away from her place of business. Whereas I believe the daughter, she was not very comfortable with the twins or with the relationship of them and their father and their family. She gave stank face. She gave a lot of stink face. The action in this film hit on every single cylinder that it was supposed to hit on. It missed no marks. I mean, the acting was incredible. The cinematography, it speaks for itself in pretty much every scene, and it doesn't give you any room to calm down or breathe. I mean, from the start to the finish, so many things are happening. So many characters are, being taken out, and so it's just a rush, and it's a rush that I feel is very needed at that point in the film. But yeah, it's a lot. I saw an interview of Ryan Coogler saying the tricky part about the Irish man and the KKK members coming up and trying to lure people out and trying to turn them over is, that actually kind of saved them from what would have inevitably happened that next morning, was the KKK members coming up and, trying to unalive everyone at the party, because they don't want any black people in their spaces, even if they bought it with money that was, it wasn't good money, but it was their money and it was their space and they didn't want them there. So it was kind of like a play on, were they really the saviors, even though their intentions weren't as good either? The mid credit scene was absolutely shot perfectly. I mean, I wouldn't even consider it a mid credit scene. I don't think the movie is complete without it. And so I would just call it the perfect ending. When they walk in and they see him and they see his life and his ease on life, they try to offer him immortality. And he says, well, I've done everything I want to do, seen everything I wanted to see, and I'm at peace with leaving this earth in the way that, most people do. And then Stack says something that's so profound. He says, that he agrees that the day was definitely the best day of his life. But the crazy part was that was the last time he seen the sun, and that was the last time he seen his brother. So it's a day that's etched in his memory forever. And I don't necessarily know if he wants to trade off his life of being a vampire, but he seems content, and I think that that speaks a lot. A lot of Christian people walked into this movie, I don't think, expecting the elements of Christianity to be so ineffective. And I think that definitely rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Um, Christianity often being depicted as the answer to a lot of things in people's lives. And that's how Christianity is portrayed on normal day to day lives. When you pray, things are expected to get better. When you call out on the name of Jesus, things are expected to go your way. Wrapping back around to the topic of Christianity, when it goes to that last ending scene, when Preacher Boy is just sitting there and he's singing This Little Light of Mine, it shows two sides. It shows that, the blues is still within him, it will always be within him, but so is the gospel. So is his upbringing, and it's just as important, and it's sort of intertwined inside of him. I mean, he's Preacher Boy, so him showing that, his father and what his father taught him, it didn't go in one ear and out the other. Music is important to the church. Music is important to the soul of African Americans in this country, and I think that they can coexist. And I think that's what Ryan was trying to portray in that last ending scene. I also want to point out that some of the bad rhetoric that I hear about this film comes from one of two things. And that's number one, the pacing of the film, which I can kind of see, but considering the fact that I watch so many films, I'm okay with a slow burn of a film. But that's definitely one of the biggest criticism of the film, which I understand. And the other one is just the lack of understanding, the lack of a connection to the film, feeling like a lot of things in the film shouldn't be there, or a lot of things don't really make sense or can't relate to a lot of people. And I feel like that's very unfortunate because that's really not a common theme, especially for nuanced and critical thinkers. This film was absolutely very impactful and relatable, and I think it's very rare to find a film like it.